How to Paint Sunlight in Watercolor by Ilya Ibryaev.
Здравствуйте, я Илья Ибряев, художник из
Hello,
России.
my name is Ilya Ibryaev. I'm a fine artist from Moscow, Russia. As a professional watercolor painter, I am a member of the Russian Artists Union as well as the International Watercolor Society. My watercolors are often exhibited in numerous fine art exhibitions, both in Russia and abroad, and I have received various awards for my art. Today, I would like to show you how to paint an impressionistic artwork, which is called The Light Around Us. I exhibited one of such artworks in the International Watercolor Exhibition in Spain, and this painting won the Golden Medal Award. Here is the watercolor that I will produce by the end of this video lesson. Before we begin painting, I will say a few words about the art materials I am using. Let's begin with brushes. Here are a couple of flat bristle brushes, 1 and 1.5 inches wide brushes. Here's another soft natural hair flat brush, which is more suited for watercolor painting. I also have a round, soft mop brush made of natural hair that is manufactured by Rublev, as well as a smaller synthetic round brush, which is good for painting details. Also, I like the long natural hair rigger, which is capable of producing both thick and thin lines. Another brush that I like a lot is the natural Kolinsky sable brush. And there are other flat and round smaller brushes of both natural hair and synthetic types, which are great for making standalone, well-defined brush strokes. Small, flat synthetic brushes are also very useful when it comes to making brush strokes and thin lines. Finally, there are a few more very thin long hair, both natural and synthetic, brushes that are great for making long, thin lines. My favorite watercolor paper is the Saunders Waterford cold-pressed or not paper. It is made of 100% cotton and has a weight of 300 GSM. In terms of paint, I very much like watercolor paints made in St. Petersburg, Russia. These paints come in tubes and pans, have a very high quality, and are reasonably priced. When working in a studio, it is better to have 2 jars of water, one for rinsing brushes, and another to have clean water for painting. A natural sea sponge is good to have, but it is optional. Another useful item is an atomizer, which allows you to spray artworks with clean water. Finally, paper towels or napkins can be very handy as well. I begin with spraying the paints with an atomizer to soften them up. I also use an atomizer to wet the paper surface. The sun rays will go from the top. To prepare their color, I mix warm pigments such as cadmium orange, yellow ochre light, and cadmium yellow. I dilute this mix of 3 colors by adding more water. Next to this mix, I also put some red and add a little bit of green to mute the yellow mix down. A light tint is applied on the paper with a flat, wide brush. I would also like to say a few words as to why painting such an artwork cannot be done from life. Instead, it has to be done from memory. Sunshine beaming through the tree is a difficult effect to arrange. However, when you accidentally have a glimpse of this occurrence, you will get an impression of how it looks. Therefore, while in the studio later on, you can paint what you remembered about this effect. I have applied the first wash with very light vertical brushstrokes, and I now rotate the board to allow the paint to flow across the paper surface and intermix to produce a soft gradation. I mix ultramarine with cadmium orange, which are two complementary colors that produce a nice gray when mixed together. I will apply this color to produce the shadows between sun rays. I am painting wet into wet, making confident brushstrokes using a flat brush. I want to make the background in alla prima, which means in one session, before the paper dries. When there is too much water on the paper surface, I can lift the board and hold it vertically, which allows water to run down. This painting will be almost monochrome without highly saturated colors. The colors will be muted because we are looking against the light, and the high contrast of tonal values play a more important role than hues and saturations. I haven't made an underdrawing for this painting. The composition of this artwork is in my head, and I will paint it in color without any sketches. Apart from using ultramarine and cadmium orange for shadows, I also mix cadmium orange and cadmium yellow to paint warm sun rays between the tree branches, which will be added later. There are three important things that an artist must balance every time when painting in watercolor: the amount of water on the paper, how much water is loaded on the brush, and the amount of pigment also loaded on the paintbrush. To build up tonal values of this artwork, I am mixing more cadmium orange and ultramarine to achieve a darker shade. This mix is applied with swift and confident brushstrokes, painting dark shadows wet into wet. When the paper dries, this tone will become lighter. This happens because some pigments have a drying shift, and also because pigments are sinking down into the paper fibers, meaning that its white surface shows more. While adding more and more paint, I also lift and rotate the board, which allows gravity to do its job and intermixes paints on the paper surface more smoothly. The key here is not to overload the paper with water. Therefore, I load the brush with very little water. Also, you may notice that I'm using flat brushes, as these give wider brush strokes while holding less water than round brushes. When painting, you need to pay attention to how much the paper is wet. If it is soaked, it is very difficult to keep control over the paint flow. If needed, you may want to let the paper dry a bit before continuing with painting. Also, with a damp, clean brush, you may wipe off excess water before adding more pigment if required. You may see that I am now using a smaller flat brush, which holds even less water but gives darker brushes. I am gradually adding more and more dark paint onto the paper, which builds up the tonal values while working on the shadow areas of this artwork. The direction of brushstrokes is important. It follows the direction of sun rays. I dry the paper a bit. As it dries, the colors become lighter. These almost abstract gradients on paper will serve the purpose of the underpainting. I can now mix more ultramarine and cadmium orange to make an almost neutral gray, and I apply this dark shade with a flat brush. To soften this brushstroke, I spray it with an atomizer. I have an approximate composition in my head, but now I have to decide on the more precise layout of the future artwork. By now, the paper surface is dry. I will use a stiff bristle flat brush for painting the texture of the tree foliage. For its warm color, I mix cadmium orange and cadmium yellow. I load the brush with little water but enough pigment, and I touch the paper surface lightly with the brush tip. I add a bit of burnt sienna to the previous mix to make it darker. To get an even darker tone, I mix ultramarine with cadmium red and cadmium orange. And I apply this mix in the same manner with the tip of the brush. Doubling creates an interesting picturesque effect. It also saves time, as by following this method, I am able to paint multiple leaves of the tree in one touch. Because we are looking against the light, we won't see highly saturated colors, meaning that contrasts between light and dark are more important in this artwork than the contrast between different colors. From warm colors of cadmium yellow and cadmium orange, which are light and saturated, I have gradually made a transition to a darker shade of cadmium orange mixed with ultramarine, which appears as a cold gray. I spray this mix with an atomizer and rotate the board to allow the paint to flow and to create an impressionistic transition between light and shadow. While the paper surface is wet, I add more paint with fast brushstrokes. I then use a clean, damp brush to wipe off the paint in order to create the sun ray. I mix cadmium orange, cadmium yellow, and a bit of burnt sienna to produce the warm color of the tree foliage and apply this mix with a flat brush. I understand that you cannot see the picture I have in mind, so I will show you the final artwork once again for you to see what I am trying to achieve. It is a very impressionistic artwork. It conveys the feeling of the moment when you accidentally see bright sunshine beaming through the tree foliage. I am now wiping off the pigment with a damp paper towel to create more texture and to preserve the white paper color. The purpose of this video lesson is not just to show how to make this particular artwork, but to demonstrate and explain the different methods and techniques of watercolor painting. Some smaller details are added with the liner brush. I dry the paper surface before continuing with more defined details. Painting with the small brush gives great control over the graphical design of this picture. It's time to add another tree branch at the top. As previously, I do it with the flat bristle brush, applying the mix of ultramarine with cadmium orange. A warmer and darker shade can be achieved by adding cadmium red into this mix. Speckling paint with a wide brush is a fast way to create an impression of the bushy leafage. You may notice that the color for the greenery does not contain green pigment whatsoever. Instead, I am using the whole range of colors from warm to cold and from light to dark, including cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, burnt sienna, cadmium red, and ultramarine pigments. A limited number of pigments helps to concentrate on tonal values rather than colors. I wash up the soft hair flat brush, and with swift movements I spread the paint across the paper to create an illusion of shadows in the air. I also load dark pigment onto the brush and deepen up the tonal values of these shadows. To soften up the hard edges, I spray these brushstrokes with clean water. I also spread out the pigment on paper with the brush. While the paper surface is wet, the paint spreads out, so to preserve the white color of the paper, you may need to wipe off the pigment with a clean, damp brush. Drying the paper with a fan will stop the paint from spreading. It's time to take care of the bottom half of this artwork. I am using the same limited palette of pigments to keep the top and bottom parts of this artwork in the same style. The background is done. It looks almost monochrome. Now I mix cadmium orange, cadmium yellow, and sap green to add more colors to this artwork. This greener leafage is in the foreground, and therefore its color is more saturated. To create an illusion of aerial perspective, higher contrasts between light and dark and brighter and warmer colors have to be applied to the objects which are closer to a viewer. On the other hand, the objects which are further away should have less contrast, lighter tones, and be pale in color. It's time to paint the foreground objects, like the tree trunks, for example. I want to create an illusion of the mist, which is lit by the sunshine. That is why the tree trunk at the bottom diffuses into the fog and casts a shadow into the air. I use a small, round, long hair brush to paint thin branches and twigs, which are depicted very schematically. I also add some leaves with a small brush in a warm color mixed from cadmium orange and ultramarine, and spread the paint with a flat brush to suggest the casted shadow. A combination of small, well-defined details with white, soft gradient washes gives this artwork an interesting appearance. Despite these well-defined details, this is still a very impressionistic artwork, and I would like to finish it before it is fully done. All that remains for me to do is to sign it. Here is the finished artwork. I hope that you have learned a thing or two about how to paint in watercolor, and there is so much more to learn in the Watercolor Academy course.
Do you want to discover secrets of making realistic watercolors? Do you want to improve your painting skills? There are many watercolor know-hows, including color theory, knowledge of materials, different methods and techniques. Reinventing all this knowledge can be a daunting task. Unless you have someone with great skills and experience who can show you the trade secrets, you may spend years learning on your own. If you want to learn watercolor painting in the fast and easy way, Watercolor Academy is for you. Here, you'll discover the professional ways of painting that will help you to raise your art skills to the advanced level. There are many watercolor courses, but this academy is different. Here, you'll learn advanced techniques for using watercolors, as well as trade secrets that are not taught anywhere else. Unlike in contemporary art colleges, the Academy teachers will create watercolor artworks in front of your eyes, while explaining all you need to know about how to mix colors and how to apply them the right way. You'll see the complete process of making watercolor artworks. At Watercolor Academy, you'll discover what watercolor is and its place in the history of arts, how to choose good watercolor materials, fundamental know-how of color theory, rules of composition and golden proportions, how to transfer drawings, how to mix pigments, how to make quick sketches and long studies in watercolor, how to use 5 different watercolor painting methods, how to use 9 different painting techniques, how to create monochrome and 2-color artworks, how to make full-color artworks with only 3 primary colors, how to make multicolored watercolor paintings, how to paint landscapes, seascapes, and cityscapes, how to make botanical and animalistic artworks, how to paint still lifes and pattern designs, how to paint realistic portraits, how to paint figurative artworks, and much more. There are 2 courses at Watercolor Academy: the online course, a self-study, self-paced course where you can learn how to paint in watercolor by watching video lessons and doing proposed assignments, and the correspondence course, where in addition to video lessons, you'll also receive personal one-on-one tutoring from the Academy teachers. As a Watercolor Academy student, you'll get a lifetime membership and unlimited personal support. You can study at your own pace in the comfort of your home. Our personal support includes your artwork's critique, while personal tutoring offers up to 100 watercolor painting tasks that will be guided step by step by the Academy tutors. Personal support and tutoring will be custom tailored to your level of skills and needs. It is very easy to study at Watercolor Academy online course. Just sit back, relax, and play the video lessons in order. You can pause the video at any time and make notes about methods and techniques. You'll get all you need to know with no extra work on your end. In the correspondence course, your art skills will be assessed and a special curriculum will be created just for you. A dedicated team of art teachers will give you in-depth tutoring so you can raise your painting skills to the advanced level. In this academy, you'll see video lessons by 4 professional artists and art teachers: Vladimir London, Natalie Ricci, Ilya Ibrov, and Anna Ivanova, who will show you their secrets of painting. All tutors are full-time fine artists who participated in numerous art exhibitions and won international art awards. Their combined art experience spans over 100 years, and today you can benefit from their extensive artistic knowledge. At Watercolor Academy, as an online course student, you'll receive lifetime membership, 80 video lessons on how to paint in watercolor, personal support, answers to your art questions, critique of your artworks, members-only newsletter, place in the online students gallery, diploma of excellence upon completing the course. As a correspondence course student, you'll receive all that's included into the online course: a dedicated team of art tutors, personal tutoring by Academy teachers, assessment of your current level of art skills, custom-tailored watercolor painting curriculum, up to 100 watercolor painting tasks, detailed instructions on how to do every task, review of your progress on the by-task basis. Here's how you'll benefit from Watercolor Academy. You'll learn the comprehensive information about color theory and watercolor materials that will help you to paint with beautiful colors and avoid mistakes when mixing pigments. You'll learn how to paint in chiaroscuro, which will help you to create lifelike artworks. You'll discover master secrets and traditional painting methods and techniques that will widen your range of painting abilities. You'll discover how to paint whatever you can see or imagine in a realistic manner using either limited or full palette of colors. You'll receive direct access to Watercolor Academy tutors and get personal support and critique of your art. Understanding of professional know-hows of watercolor painting will help you to improve your art skills, create better pieces, attract more commissions at higher prices, and earn recognition. Here's how our students' painting skills improve. You can see that after watching the Watercolor Academy video lessons and following our personal tutoring, our students really get what it takes to paint in watercolor the professional way. Your watercolor painting skills will improve as well. Here's what our students say. In just 1 month, I've learned more about painting with watercolors than in 4 years at an art college. I could only wish of enrolling in the Watercolor Academy earlier. Sam P. Painting portraits has always been the most difficult thing for me. It's amazing how Watercolor Academy teachers made this topic so easy to follow. Daniel. I was painting for years with little progress before I took the Watercolor Correspondence course. This was the best decision for improving my art skills. Pauline. Thank you, Watercolor Academy teachers. I've learned so much from you. I now work as an illustrator, sell my artworks, and plan my first watercolor exhibition. Lena. Watercolor Academy delivers great value. Each of the 80 video lessons is worth $100, totaling $8,000 in value. However, today you can get the complete course for only $297. This is less than the price of only 3 videos. If you learn the best under personal guidance, the Watercolor Academy Correspondence course is for you. In this course, you'll learn much more than at any contemporary art college. We have limited capacity, and when places are filled, we will suspend the enrollment or put the course price to its real value, $18,000. This is your unique chance of getting unlimited professional tutoring for only $997. Learn all you need to know about watercolor painting easily. Click the Enroll Now button below. Don't wait. It's time to take action. You are just 1 click away from discovering the secrets of watercolor painting. After a payment, you'll be directed to the account setup page and will receive full access to all the video lessons immediately. Click the Enroll button below now. Watercolor Academy delivers the great value, but the price will go up in the future. Take full advantage of this introductory offer right now. See you in a couple of minutes after you've set up your account.